Hi guys, it's me Karen, and I've come to do a coloring page in this beautiful book here. This is Amazing Animals by the ASPCA, Color with a Cause. Help saves lives, because the money that you spend on this gives a donation to the company. And I did this, and I showed this on my Instagram and my Facebook page, and was asked if I did a video on it, because this is done with just distress ink with just a couple of dots from the Posca pen. So this is all distress ink, no pencils, no nothing. So I thought I would do this little guy kind of in the same colors so you can see how he's done. So this little kitty is going to be done the same way in just plain distress inks. Now, I've also been asked a lot of questions regarding distress ink itself, and I can give you a little bit of information on distress inks. They've asked, like, what are they? Distress inks are acid-free, non-toxic, non-fade. They don't fade, they're fade resistant, but they're water-based dye inks. And when I first started picking these up, I was doing scrapbooking, kind of. What I would do was make scrapbooks themselves, and the pages I wanted to put in them, I wanted a vintage look too, so I would, instead of tea staining the pages, I would use the distress ink to make the pages look like they were tea stained. Hold on and I will show you what I'm talking about on that. Okay, what I'm talking about is this type of thing. I use the distress ink to actually stain the white ribbon that's on here. I also used it to go around the edges of the paper, and this was done in the vintage photo to ink around the edges. And let me see if I can find some blank pages in here. Like, this is what I'm talking about, tea stain. So I would wet the page down and then go over the edges and inside here with some of the distress ink to turn the pages to look vintage and old and crinkly and cool. Okay, so that's the pages I'm talking about, and I'd even rip some of these up to make it look older, and doing all the inking on the cardstock paper. Okay, so that is what I'm talking about when I used to make these kind of things. And this is a journal, and I just use it to write in. Okay, so when I made those kind of things, I got used to using the distress inks quite quickly, but it took a long time for me to get to that stage. I also made cards, and if you go on my channel, you will find a bunch of cards and planner pages that I've also used the distress inks on. So you can use distress inks on paper. You can use them on photos. You can use them on boxes, wood products, just about everything you can think of to use it on. But remember that they are water-based, so if you use it on wood, it will soak into the wood quite nicely, makes a great effect. But if you try to repaint over that wood, the wetness of the paint will also smear that color into your paint, so you have to be quite careful about that kind of thing. But the water-based part of these particular inks is what I like the best, because the other inks I own are dye inks, but they are permanent when they go down on paper, so they do not smear as nicely. They go down and they give you a crisp image. Say if I used this VersaFine, it would actually stamp out like this is done on the paper, and it won't bleed if you put water on it or if you put distress ink over it. So that was useful for card making when I did cards. I still do cards, I just don't show them on my channel. Anyway, so I have a whole bunch of distress inks that I had purchased, I'm going to say about 5 years ago, because that's when I started this process of doing things. So I've got a lot of different colors. And then I have some of these cute little cubes. I like these a lot because you do get a lot of use out of them. These I do have refills for about 5 of the ones that I use a lot. But the rest of them still work beautifully after that long. I just store them upside down in my little ink chest that I made. Anyway, so water-based dye ink, so it's permanent after it's put down and dried. You don't have to do anything to keep it on your page. You don't have to spray it with a fixative. You don't have to cover it with shellac or anything. This is a acid-free, non-toxic, fade-resistant, water-based dye ink. So you don't have to worry about the color fastness or anything. It's all going to stay there. So you can also, and I believe I showed it on one video, you can put this on a surface, add water to it, and use it as a watercolor. If you put ink down, you can splatter water on it, and it will lift some of the water or the ink off, and you get this nice splattered effect. That's how I did the effect back here on this page, is I just put some water down and patted it up with a washcloth, and you get the white coming up through it. They layer really well. I started off on this with a yellow base, then an orange, and then a brown, and you get this nice gorgeous effect. And then I did blue in here, but when I went over it with the yellow, it turns green, so I got this really cool green effect on him. Try to do the same colors on the kitty cat here. The tools that you use are your choice. You can use anything you want. Tim Holtz does make a square one of these. It has a rectangle pad. This is like the hook and eye Velcro stuff. You can make your own wooden block, put 2 staples in, put a Velcro piece here, and the little sponge piece has got the soft side of the Velcro. Boom. Goes on really easy. They come in rectangle, round, and then they have the mini tools that are a wood dowel with a little sponge on each end, and you can get into detailing work with those. I had to buy this one on eBay because I could not find it in the store. You can use makeup brushes. You can use the ones that come with your pastels. You can, anything that has a sponge. You can just go get sponges. This is a art sponge that I cut into quarters and dip it in ink and use. You can buy, well, look around your house. See what you've got. You could probably find something that you can use with distress inks. If you're going to paint with them, use your paint brushes. It doesn't matter if they're fine art style paint brushes or, you know, one you get out of your kids' supplies. It's just as long as it will hold water. I won't be using it as water color on this picture because this one's just going to be done in distress inks. So I will go ahead and start, and I'm going to start off with the mustard seed here in the yellow. Nice thing about these cubes is the little round one sits right in the bottom of it. So I use my inks a lot. That is why my little spongy tops look dark. I will also tell you that I only ink up half of this. It looks like I'm inking up the whole thing, and I will if I'm going to do a lot of surface, but when I'm going to go in here to do, say, just this line here is what I want to do. I will make sure that only half of this is inked. And I just do that by rubbing it on half of the sponge, leaving the other half uncolored, okay? Then when I put it down, I'm going to get a piece of paper here. I'm going to show you. I'm going to put it down only on the line, so it's half, and then I twist in a motion where the line goes. So I'm going to get this kind of look, but I'm going to get the darkest spot on the line I'm going to do, and then I will bring the ink out. And out just means starting here, getting it the darkest, and then just kind of in a circular motion pulling it this way. So you just keep doing that. You don't even have to put any more ink on, and it just comes out and you get a nice little blend. On this particular paper, because it's water-based paper, I would have to go over that line a few times to get it really dark, or I could go in with a pencil. Canary yellow goes really good with this color. And if I get a dark spot, I would just blend it in with the colored pencils. That's what I usually do with most of my colorings. This one is going to be done with just distress inks and no pencils, so you can see what you can do with just the inks. So I will go ahead. If you're just new to this, you will want to keep a piece of paper next to you. I'll put one over here on this side of the thing, so you can see how much ink you have on your pad here. And then I will just take it and go down this line with that corner and just blend it in. I'm holding up this side and it doesn't have any ink on it, so I don't want to get it in the eye, so I'm just holding it above it, and I'm just going to blend that out. And then we get a little yellow going here. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, just inking that corner, turning it because I know where the corner is, and bringing the ink down right across the nose. I'm not getting into the eye, and just bringing it out. I use this as my, I'm going to say pen nib. Maybe that helps. Just keep it going around there. And bring that color up. So I'm kind of drawing the ink on with that side of the sponge on this thing. And then we'll go down around his little cheek mouth here. And I always say it doesn't matter if you get a little in the white surface, because he's going to have a shadow there anyway. And then I'll just kind of pull whatever's left on my sponge out into the other color areas, so you don't have to worry about a cutoff point. So we have our yellow down, and I'm going to change now to a brown. Oh no, I'm going to go with the orange. So this one is spiced marmalade. You'll see with this pad, it's a whiter pad. And again, I'm only going to ink on one side of it. So you'll see the orange going just on this side over here. This is dry, not going to be used. And we do the same thing. I'll then take this corner and run it down on the inside here. And it's a very light touch, barely touching the sponge down. You don't need to cram it down and rub it. You just need to lightly touch it, okay? It's a sponge after all. You don't want to squish the sponge. Keep it fluffy. Then I'm just going to go over that part and darken that up. Always using just the corner for this particular part. And then rubbing it and bringing the orange up into the yellow. And going around the side here, just down to his little chip. And that's okay if it gets up in here. I don't want you to worry about that. I'm gonna kind of just blend it in a little bit. That's just softly rubbing it to blend the two colors. Bring that orange out. Just going over the line. And you can layer this a lot, so if you think it needs to be darker, just dab it in the ink thing and very gently run it over again. Thing with ink is you can keep putting more on. Taking it away is a different story, but can be done. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do the other side here. Same way, just putting the ink on the corner. You can play with these a lot. Twist the tool around in your hand and you can get around the corner a little easier. Going up on the side. Down towards his eye, always leaving it just the corner down there. Can't emphasize that enough. I'm not using the whole tool, just the edge. And since we brought a little of the orange in, we're going to bring a little orange in on this side. And that's just wiggling the tool in there very gently. And then when you're smearing it out, you can always put heavier pressure on it to bring the color outward. And we're going to use a little of the brown. So we're going to start with the vintage photo. Vintage photo is your kind of nice brown tone. Gathered twigs is a little lighter, and walnut is really a lot darker. So this one I use a lot. And again, it's the same process. Even though this is covered in brown ink, I just use the same corner and the same technique. Just putting it, tilting it, and just using the corner of that to draw with, basically. A very light touch. And going around the line where I want it. And bringing it out. And then we get this really nice gradation. Now, I'll show you what vintage photo looks like by itself. So it's just a dark brown. But with the orange and the yellow behind it, it gives that gorgeous kind of depthy color here. Bring that up just a little higher. And bring it down and around. Go up a little closer to his nose and his eye up here. Like that. And you can use the little wooden tool. This little guy, I have to find the one I use for brown. If you want to get in, and this one is you're using that whole little sponge. There's really not much sponge in here, and you have to load the ink a lot. But if you want to get into the tight spaces, and again, you have to use this softly because you don't want a big dot. You want to just lightly put it down and get some color in there. If you get a big dot, you're just going to have to work it out, putting more ink on there and just rubbing it until you get the color you want. So I'm going to use him and go around the eye just a little closer. Like that. So that gives him a little more eye definition down here. And go around his little cheekies at the same time, just to darken it there. And then we will go in, I know I'm only doing half a face, but then you get kind of a gist of what I'm doing here, with the walnut stain, which again is going to be darker. So what I'll show you is, see how much darker it is between this one and this one. And I'm going to use the same tool that I was using in the other ink, because they'll blend together, and just darken the area that I want even darker. Just going around it, and then I'll just fluff it out. And if I want it darker right under his eye, I'll get it a little darker there. So there we've got a nice definition going. If you want a little more orange, just go over it with a little more orange, go over it with a little more yellow, whatever color you have, you can use. This is just the way I'm doing him. And we're going to get some blue up here into his fur areas, and then probably down through here. So I'm going to go ahead and get the other side done the same way, and then come back into that part. I need the other tool. Doing it with that little one is gonna grab me a little baddie. It's great for detail work, it's just not best for big spots. So again, I'm just putting it down and kind of just twisting my wrist with that to get it to go around the corner and to blend up. So that's the brown layer, the vintage photo. I'm going to put a little in here, a little over here. A little more up here. Pulling it out again. Okay, and then we'll go in with the walnut. And then the tool. Okay. Before I get too far with the browns, I'm going to go in with the blue. And that is going to be peacock feathers and a little tumbled glass. Peacock feathers is brighter, and the tumbled glass is kind of a light blue. So we'll go with the light blue first. Big sponge, again, just on the side. And we're going to go down along this line and add in some of the blue. Lightly again, but you can see that. This particular book, the paper in here is just great for distress inks. So if you wanted to practice, it's not a very expensive book, and it also donates some of your money to the animal shelters. Okay, so we're going to do his ears up here too. It's the same kind of fluff that's down at the bottom, so we'll stick some blue up in this area. I'm pushing a little harder here just to get a bigger surface area, because I don't have to be so precise like around his eyeballs. And like I said, this is the lighter of the blues, so I'm going to go in with the darker blue and do the defining strokes in here. So we just want to lay down some color in there to make it blue. And then maybe over here by his whiskers. Brown and blue go nicely together, so they'll blend really well. Okay. Then we'll go in with the peacock feathers and a tool, the smaller tool. And you'll see the big difference between these two colors. So we'll do it the ears up here and just go in. That is a brighter blue. And we'll do the tips. And we'll go down here and do his side whiskers. I don't know, spur over here in the blue. Try to just do the tips and bring it in. The other side the same way. And down here. And we'll bring it in the top up here. And then we'll add in some of the lighter blue. And just bring it down real light. Okay. We're going to do his nose brown going up to match or mix. So we'll start with the vintage photo down here on his little nosy. And blend it on up. Put most of the ink, like I said, these have to be loaded a lot, so there's barely any ink left on here, and I'm just rubbing it up into the blue here. And then I'm going to put a darker color down here. And that's the walnut. Even bring it into the black area here. Okay, and you'll notice it got a little streaky here, but that's okay. I can come back in with the bigger sponge with the blue and just bring it down a little bit better. And then I'll mix the two together. When it dries, it won't show up that prominent. And poof, we've got his little nose. And I can put a little orange in here to brighten it up if I want. His little cheeks, his little mouth needs a bit of darkness down here. Let's go in with the dark brown I was using and bring it down on his cheeks a little. There's barely any ink on this. Okay. And we'll bring some up here. Okay. Now we're going to bring some of the browns up into his ears and bring some of the blues back down, so they're going to collide down here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do his eyes here. Again, I have to find the little wooden dowel that has the blue on it, because we're going to do his eyes in blue. Okay, so we're going to start off with the peacock feathers and just go in on the side down to about where his whiskers start. And then on the other side, down, leaving a little gap here. And you can pull this into the black if you want. It's not really going to show up, but it'll give you a little hue there, so you don't have to be so perfect at it. And after all, that's why we do this. It's for fun and relaxation, not for perfection. I've gone out of the lines a lot, but it's no big deal. I'll put a background. It'll cover it up. You'll never see it. Except for when you're staring at it during this video. Okay, now we're going to put a little tiny bit of yellow down. If I can find my yellow cube. There we are. That's the mustard seed, and we're going to stick a little bit of that down there. And I guess I can use this one. And we're just going to add it right down there at the bottom, blending it into the blue on both sides. And give him a little highlight. Cool, kitty cat eyes. I'm going to put a little more brown around in this area here. Brown pencil, or whatever you call these things. They have a name, and I will put it down in the description box. I think they're something in the line of precision mini tool or something. These are the mini distress tools. It's a detail mini distress tool or something. Okay, so we have that done, and we're going to bring some more of the yellows and down in this area to mix with the blue. So I'm going to go ahead and use the mustard seed here with the big pad, and I'm going to kind of go in on it all the way now, get ink all over the pad. Make sure I don't have too much, so dab it on the side paper over here, and then right where it's the lightest in this area here, I'm just going to lay it down, and I'm going to bring it up and into the blue. Up to his tip of his ear. And then down here, I'm going to bring it over to the blue too. And the same on this side. I start down where the yellow already is, so that'll be the darkest, and then just go up. Using it flat. I'm putting pressure on it, but not too much. Don't want to get a big blob of ink on there. I'm just kind of rubbing it. Going in a circular motion, even though it doesn't look like I'm going in a big circular motion. I am on the tool. I'm kind of just rubbing it in so that the pad does this kind of motion, and that'll keep you from getting straight lines on it. I'm going to bring it all the way down in here, under his chin. This side. And up under the ears too. So we almost have what we call a base coat of yellow on him, with some white still there. And then I'm going to go in with the orange spiced marmalade. And we're going to add some of that in. And I'm going to do it the same way. Get the whole pad done. Go in where it's the darkest. And then bring some of that orange up. Under his eye and out into the corners. Just wherever you feel you like it. I'm using the corner here just to get in there, leaving some of that blue up there. And I'm going to go up his nose. Just a little bit. And then go over here on his side of the face. On this side. And do the same thing. Squirrel time, if you can hear Merlin out there. Protecting us from the little squirrel eating the dogwood seeds. The berries, or whatever you want to call them. Alright. I like putting the orange anywhere it's the darkest. I try to be even on both sides. Go under his eye here with the orange too. Okay, then we're going to put a little brown in here too. First with the vintage photo. Kind of going with just the corner here. Bring it out anywhere you want a little darkness. So this is kind of your shadowy areas. Then we will go in with the darkest brown, the walnut, with the tool here, just to get into darker spots. I'm just going to highlight the areas I want darker. Okay, it's pretty much done. What I'm going to do is a background just like I did on the other one. And a little more darkness there. His little cheeks need to be done a little different, but I have to find a lighter ink I can use in there. And we will see if I can do that. That might work. This is the gathered twigs, and I'm just gonna pull it in just a little bit here. Very, very lightly. I'll shade in this area a little so it doesn't look so white. There we go. All right. Let's try to remember to put the lids on the right ink boxes. Okay, for the outside, we're going to do the same as I did on the other picture, and we're going to start with the yellow mustard seed, and then we'll add in some of the, I have a couple of ink spots down here. It's no big deal. So again, this is going to be full coverage. You put it on and dab it off on a piece of paper. You're going to go in really lightly with this. And anywhere that it's the darkest on your paper is where you want to start, and then just bring out into the white, and then very lightly kind of go around the edges. And you'll get this nice effect, and very lightly, lightly, lightly work your way out. You can always put more on, but you don't want harsh edges on this. But if you get some, it's okay, because we're going to add water in here. Like that is a little dark. Add a little water on that, it'll be fine. I don't fret over it. And like I said, this will change some of that blue to a pretty green. And we just work our way around. You notice I have not put any more ink on this yet. We're just going around, kind of giving it a soft coloring all the way around. Okay, then we're going to go in with the orange a little bit in certain spots. Alright, spiced marmalade, we're going to add it on, take it off, and we'll put some down here, go in the picture and bring it outward very lightly. If you want it darker in some spots, you can press a little harder. around his forehead or ear area up here. I'm not going to put it all the way around. I'm just going to add it in some spots. And maybe over here. Okay. There we go. And then we'll be adding the white dots. Posca you can use, and just add a couple in here. I have fuzz all over the place. I'm going to try to erase these little pieces down here. All I have to do is lighten it. Okay, there we go. All right, now what we're going to do is take just a paintbrush, ordinary paintbrush, and some water. Okay, so you can do this two ways. You can take the water and spray it down, but because the picture is all distress ink and no colored pencils, I've figured it's not the best idea, so I just take a little water, dip my paintbrush in, and different sized dots around here. And it doesn't take long for this to pull up the ink. So that's it, as long as I said that. And like I said, different sized dots in different areas. You can go back and it just pulls it up. And you can do it at different, see how it'll take up the ink in the picture too. So you gotta pick your spots wisely. I just have fun with it. That's just a washcloth. Distress ink will wash out of fabric as long as you don't let it dry completely overnight, basically. And when you play with this and do whatever you like with it, but like I said, this one that's up here at the top, get you down. If we didn't like that one, we can just add some big dots and it'll take that ink right up. Along if you wanted any like dots in here, you could put them down. I don't think I'm going to do that, but you could. I could do it on this bottom one because I have one here, and we'll just add in some water dots around the thing and give it a few. It's got to work through the brown, darker pigment, and then you get the white highlights. And since I did that there, I'm going to do it on all of them. And there we go. have a cool look. And I'll do this last curl up here. I'm usually counting to probably 10, but since this picks up easy, I'm not counting that high. Anyway, so that effect, and then I'm just going to put a couple more of the dots up here and over here. Up here. So if you pick it up right away, it'll be lighter. You can get a different effect that way. Usually, you know, splattering gives you tiny dots and light dots. And like I said, I can't do that with this guy because he's all done in distress inks. Now, because of all the white dots, I thought it would be great to have a speckled dotting going on in there also. And I have my little stamp that I use for that, and it's a it's called the Itty Bitty Background Stamp from Stampin' Up. I believe it was 1997. I got this off of eBay, and we will go in with some spotting back here, and we will do it in the same colors. So I will do an orange as soon as I find it. Where'd I put it? Okay, this is for some spiced marmalade, sorry. And we're just going to ink up the stamp. I always like to stamp off to the side because you never know how much ink you're putting on. So we'll put one here and then use it again and put one over on that side. Do it up at the top. Gives you a little texture on there. And you can do this in multicolors. This one I think I'm just going to do in the marmalade. And there. We are done with a completely inked up piece, and I think I'm going to add some water up here into his little dots. He's got up here on his forehead there. Get those out, and I think I will put some down his nose here. The whitest spot with the biggest, and then kind of go up. And down, and count to 10. Let's see how that turned out. Not quite as bright as your Posca, but rather cute. You can hear my kitty meowing. I can go over that with Posca. I just wanted to see how it would turn out. kind of gives it a cool look. I think I'll go down here too. There we go. I'll go here. And under his eye here. Awesome. Well, do that on this side. And then I'm going to call it done. Oop, that was a little too big of a dot. Oh well. Let me get one here. Maybe we'll put a little in here on his whiskers. There. Cute. Anyway, I'm going to call that done. I will put one other dot in his eyes up here. I'll put one right about here. Then get the pen to work. And there we have Kitty. Well, I hope you guys like the process. I will leave a picture at the end of the video of what he looks like. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I hope that kind of answered some questions about the Distress ink. If you have any other questions, please leave a comment down below and I will try to answer them in my next video. If you like this kind of video, please put a thumbs up. Subscribe if you like. Ring the little bell if you want notifications. I hope you all enjoy your day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.